Why, hello there, old sports, and welcome to yet another Hollow Knight challenge video. Since this is going to be my last video of 2025, I figured that I should try to make this video simultaneously similar to some of my first challenge videos, while also trying to show how far I've come. However, that's not why you clicked on this video, because today I want to ask you a question and then give you the answer over like 20 to 30 minutes. And that question is, can you beat Hollow Knight by only using Crystal Dash damage? For those of you who are unaware, the Crystal Heart, or the Crystal Dash, or the Super Dash, does a tiny bit of damage whenever you run into someone during the dash, or there's a little shockwave that spawns behind you for a split second that also does damage. Now, unlike some attacks in this game where it will scale with your nail damage, the damage from the Crystal Heart is just a flat 10 damage throughout the entire game, no matter what you upgrade, no matter what you change. To put that number into perspective a little bit more, the first upgrade you start with, or I guess the non-upgraded nail you start with, does 5 damage, and the first time you upgrade it at the nailsmith, it then does 9 damage. So, technically, I guess the Crystal Heart is doing a little bit more than a first upgraded nail, but 10 damage is still pretty pathetic. On top of the relatively low damage, actually using this as a combat tool is very much not advised, because the easiest way to deal damage with it is to run into enemies, which does contact damage to us if it doesn't kill the enemy, so that's not a good option. And the other way to do damage can be really annoying to space out the hitbox, because the shockwave simultaneously goes farther than you think it will and shorter than you think it will at the same time. Incredible, I know. Really, the only convenient thing about using Crystal Heart as a damage source is that most enemies in this game have health that's a variable of 100, or is like, it's easily divisible by 10, so we at least know how many hits we need to kill things. Now, before actually beginning the challenge, I would like to point out that it is technically possible to get to Crystal Heart before killing any bosses through a combination of glitches, downpatching, and just general chicanery. But for this run's purposes, I'm just going to edit my save file to start with the Crystal Heart. I hope you understand. Right after escaping King's Pass and ignoring Elderbug, I reach the crossroads and come across 2 of the first important revelations I need to understand before conquering this challenge. The first thing I came to understand was that killing basic enemies is way too annoying and tedious for me to care about right now, so I'm just probably not going to do it unless I need to grind or whatever. Foreshadowing is a narrative device. The second great realization that I came to was that even if I do want to fight enemies, or bosses for that matter, I need to be careful because it's really hard to stop the Crystal Dash sometimes. Sometimes you'll instantly stop it because you're pressing A like a maniac or whatever jump button you have. Sometimes it just won't register that you're pressing the button and you'll dash into another room, so that's wonderfully annoying. So after cheesing the hell out of this guard that was holding the scrub hostage, I decided to go towards the False Knight, and that required me to defeat this arena of Aspids. And I ran into a third revelation, and that is that airborne enemies suck. And honestly, I was going to originally to try to do the Dream No More ending where you fight the normal Radiance, but then I realized that that would be physically impossible because the Radiance is a flying enemy. So, thank God I don't have to do that. But after defeating that arena, I was able to mostly just kind of breeze through the rest of the crossroads up until the Stag Station, where I just decided to take a break, and then I also used the nearby Soul Totem to gather some soul for the next boss fight. And by next, I mean the first boss fight of this run. The Gruz Mother in the Forgotten Crossroads Church has 90 health, which means that we need to hit her with the Crystal Dash 9 times. And honestly, it was really not that hard, because I could try to time a Crystal Dash damage to happen every time she would hit the ground when she was doing her slam attack, and then I could just try to ignore or hope she didn't do her normal, like, single slam attack. And you just want to watch out for that attack, really. Again, I don't know why I'm phrasing this like it's a tutorial, but we've established this is a thing I do, apparently, so. Thankfully, the Gruz Mother goes down pretty quickly, and I'm able to slaughter most of her offspring with one Crystal Dash use, because they're all bunched up together, and the shockwave is actually pretty big, all things considered. but more importantly, I have access to Sly now, which means I can access his shop, and then also, since I have the Crystal Dash, I could hypothetically buy stuff from Salubra's Charm Shop because I could reach it without the Claw or Dash, but I'm not really going to have any use for any of her items until I have Claw or Dash, so I don't know why I even mentioned this, to be honest. Anyways, moving on. Now, to be completely transparent, I've tried this challenge before, and I gave up on False Knight, because False Knight is legitimately a really hard fight for this challenge, and I thought, well, if False Knight is this much of an issue, I'm sure the other bosses will be even worse. But the thing is, I think in terms of this challenge, the False Knight is actually like top 3 most difficult bosses, and I know the other 2 off the top of my head actually I'll keep that a secret for now. No, but the False Knight is pretty tricky. The safest time to hit him, quote-unquote, is to just wait till he jumps over you, so you can charge the Crystal Dash as he lands, and then dash away from him. Adding up the health of all of his maggot phases and armor phases, you get 355 health, which means we're going to have to hit him a total of 36 times with the Crystal Heart Dash. Now, yes, a little under half his health bar is the maggot stage phase thingy, so those hits are all free, but those other hits, when he's armored, those hits you're going to have to earn. And every mistake you'll make for this fight counts, because you won't have the Dream Nail yet, and that's your only way to recover health. So, what ends up happening in my first few attempts is that he whittles me down in the first 2 phases, and then he gets faster in the third one and kills me. But thankfully, I'm able to get the fight done in 2 or 3 attempts, and we're able to move on with the challenge. Now that I think about it, the hardest bosses in this challenge are all knights. I don't know if that means anything, it probably doesn't, I just thought I'd add that. Anyways, after doing some save file editing, after doing some dark magic, I'm able to get into Green Path with no issues. Thankfully, the Crystal Dash allows me to reach that high up ledge where you first see Hornet, and if you didn't know, usually speedrunners take that route because it's a lot quicker to get to the Hornet boss fight, because technically it's a shortcut if you're going back from the other way. Obviously, you're not really intended to be able to go that way the first time you come across that room. Anyways, the rest of the trek through Green Path isn't too much trouble minus a Moss Knight here or there because shields are annoying. And then we run into the room with Zoe, and oh no, I can't reach Zoe, oh no, I can't reach the Vengeful King, oh no, Anyways, moving on to something I actually can pretend to care about, we have the first Hornet boss fight. Now, funnily enough, Hornet only has 225 HP, meaning we only need to hit her with the Crystal Dash 23 times. And I'm sure this is just because for the False Knight, half its health was basically the maggot, so you were getting free hits, quote-unquote. But thankfully, it's pretty easy to bait Hornet into a safe place to attack her, her easiest opening being her Threadstorm move, because you can kind of just sit next to where she's about to land, and then use the Crystal Dash, and that will hit her. Thankfully, overall, Hornet 1 is pretty easy as a boss, because it's technically a warm-up for the actual difficult boss that comes much later, but we're not actually gonna fight her, so haha. Anyways, now that I have the dash, I'm able to reach the Fog Canyon and then descend into the Fungal Waste via the Queen's Station. From there, I die like 3 times to the Shroomal Ogres trying to get the Charm Notch when I beat Hornet on my first try, so that's silly. But I am eventually able to get it, so that's 1 more Charm Notch for us, and trust me, we're gonna need every one of them we can get our hands on. Or at least conveniently, I'm not doing the trial, the first Colosseum trial for a Charm Notch. After that, the rest of the Fungal Waste is just a easy, light stroll until I get the Mantis Claw, and then retreat back to the Crossroads, because there's no way in hell I'm trying to fight the Mantis Lords, because there's no way I'm going to be able to hit them. Anyways, now that I have the Mantis Claw, it's very easy to get to the resting grounds, considering that I have the Crystal Dash, for obvious reasons. Now, after doing the Dream Nail sequence and then talking to Seer after, I devise a plan. My last challenge taught me that the Watcher Knights are going to be very difficult to Dream Nail, and that their invulnerability they get when doing certain attacks can be very annoying, and I'm sure those problems are going to exist tenfold when I'm only using Crystal Dash. So to save any semblance of my sanity, I'm going to get Dream Wielder, which both speeds up the amount of time it takes to use the Dream Nail, but also gives you double the soul, all for just 1 Charm Notch. Now, to get Dream Wielder, you need to have 500 Essence when talking to Seer. Now, after collecting almost every Whispering Root we can get our hands on, as well as killing Gorb in the Howling Cliffs, That gets us to about 330 essence, which means we're 170 essence short of our goal. On an unrelated note, did you know that there's a 1 in 300 chance that every time you kill an enemy you will get 1 essence? Anyways, 11 hours of killing Mask Fies later, and I had enough essence to get Dreamwielder from Seer. Now yes, the fight with the Watcher Knights was the longest fight in the challenge at about 20 minutes, which is 5 minutes longer than the second longest fight, and yes, the fight against the Watcher Knights was excruciating, but at least I didn't spend the equivalent of a full day's work just killing birds in that one room in Green Path for 11 hours, so I guess I should take my blessings where I can. I don't know. Speaking of the Watcher Knights themselves, I feel like I should explain variable health as a concept. If you can't pick up on it, basically variable health, in Hollow Knight at least, is a thing that happens with certain bosses where they'll either get more or less health depending on what nail upgrade you have, with the base nail being the least amount of health and the pure nail being the most amount of health. This is done mainly to just make the bosses more of a fair fight, and not in their favor. It's more to try to tone you down a little bit so you don't melt them in 30 seconds. Or, well, if you want to melt them in 30 seconds, you're gonna have to work for it, damn it. And since our damage will be the same from the beginning to the end of the challenge run, I decided not to upgrade my nail at all so these bosses won't get their health increase. Now, I'm pretty sure the only boss I fought in this challenge that actually had the variable health was the Watcher Knights, but again, considering this was the longest fight in the challenge by like 5 minutes, I'm not complaining. At their base health, adding all of the Watcher Knights together, the Watcher Knights have about 1,300 or 1,320 health. Now, in reality, they only have 1,100 health because I killed one of them with the chandelier before the fight started. But considering how many Crystal Hearts didn't do any damage because they were balled up and thus invincible, I feel like that it was still worth the time trade-off. The frustrating thing about the Watcher Knights is that 2 of their 3 attacks are pretty much useless to you, and then the last attack is the best attack to Dream Nail them, aka get more soul for healing, and then it's also good for attacking them with a Crystal Dash. But it's just annoying because it feels like they'll never do that attack as often as the other 2, and then when they finally do use that attack, you have to make the split-second decision of, should I use this to get more soul, or should I try to damage them? However, thanks to Dreamwielder, this fight is a lot easier than it could have been, so thank God for that. I make sure to grab the Geo from the chest and the Hallownest seal that you can get after beating the Knights, and then I go kill Lurian. 1 Dreamer down, 2 to go. Next up on the chopping block is Monomon, and by extension Umu, who is a bastard who I hate. Now thankfully Umu only has 300 health, which means we only need to hit it 30 times, but unfortunately it's really hard to hit it with the shockwave from behind you, and then also the best way of hitting it is by just like dashing into it, which wastes health, which means we have to just keep dream nailing it and try to heal, which is a problem because lots of our times to heal are when it's vulnerable, but we want to be taking the most advantage of that and try to hit it once or twice before its bubble comes back up. So it's kind of just an unfortunate situation. However, since this boss is extremely tedious, I figured that I might as well just talk about my charm build right now. Now, after this fight, I went and got Grub Song, but I could have technically used it here. And then on top of, well, I guess I wasn't using Grub Song. Instead of using Grub Song, I had Dreamwielder, and then Stalwart Shell for the extra invincibility frames that it provides you. Anyways, eventually Umu goes down thanks to the assistance of Quirrell, and then Monomon goes down soon afterwards. Now, before actually even fighting the Hollow Knight, I did a lot of preparation, because one thing I've been holding on to that's been helping me get through these boss fights is, like I said, the Dream Nail and Dreamwielder by extension. Because getting soul and being able to heal obviously sustains how much longer we're able to last in fights, and it means that every mistake isn't necessarily permanent. This, however, does not apply to the Hollow Knight, as it is immune to being Dream Nailed. So first of all, I made sure to gather more soul vessel fragments, or I had enough to get an extra soul bubble, and then I made sure to have 7 masks going into this fight. And I knew it would take more than 6 hits, or I would take more than 6 hits in the amount of time it would take to actually kill the Hollow Knight, so I needed some way to generate enough soul to sustain myself, and that's where Grub Song comes in. With Grub Song, I can get a little bit of soul back for every hit I take. It takes 33 soul to heal, and you get 13 soul from Grub Song. On top of that, if we use Deep Focus, every 33 soul gives us 2 masks instead of 1, which means we're getting more value from Grub Song, which means we can last a lot longer. But the Hollow Knight attacks pretty quickly, so it's hard to get in any opportunities to heal. So that's where the final charm comes in, that being Quick Focus. When you combine Quick Focus with Deep Focus, you will heal in the same amount of time, but you'll heal 2 masks instead of 1. So I made sure to gather pretty much every charm notch I needed to equip all 3 of those charms, and thankfully I could take off Dreamwielder, because again, the Hollow Knight is immune to being Dream-Nailed, so that was one saving grace, I guess. And after all that preparation, I was finally able to start the fight, and oh boy, this fight was brutal. It was the hardest fight in the whole challenge. Now the funny thing about this specific boss fight is that this is a 4-phase fight, and specifically the second phase is the hardest, followed by the first phase, followed by the third phase, followed by the fourth phase being the easiest. Now the reason phases 3 and 4 are more easy by comparison is because the Hollow Knight in phase 3 can start to do the stabbing attack, which drops it to its knees, which means we can get off a free Crystal Heart or heal if we need to. And then phase 4, the thing is basically on death's door, so we have a lot more opportunities is what I'm trying to get at. Unfortunately, in phase 1, and especially phase 2, this boss is just unrelenting. Its basic nail attacks, with the exception of the parry, are basically a coin flip on whether it's safe or not to try to get a Crystal Heart off, but the thing is, you need to take those chances, because if you wait forever for it to try to do the parry attack, you're gonna get hit over that time if you keep waiting for it. So it's like, you just need to just take the risk, which is probably the reason this fight is so hard, is because it forces you to basically pull the slot lever and see, are you going to get hit or are you not? Are you going to get further in the challenge or are you going to get set back a step? Is the 20-minute fight you were fighting for going to be successful or are you going to end in failure? I only took like 4 or 5 attempts to beat this boss once I had all my preparation in place, but the thing is, each of those fight attempts were like 15 minutes minimum, so this fight was just very taxing. Because, at least with the Watcher Knights, when I had Dreamwielder, I beat them first try, but the Hollow Knight, I died 4 times, like 15 minutes in, so that's like an hour of just failure right there. Again, it's not as bad as the 11 hours it took for me to get the fucking essence for Dreamwielder, but that's another story. Now, like I said, phase 2 is more difficult than phase 1 because on top of the Knight's regular nail attacks, the Hollow Knight gets access to at least 2 more attacks, technically 3. And the first one of those attacks is where it will lift its cloak up and shoot like an arc of infection bubbles at you, and that's kind of hard to dodge if you can't jump over it in time. And then it also has the attack where it jumps down, or it jumps up, slams down, and summons Pillars of Fire. And the thing is, those pillars do 2 damage, which means our Deep Focus trick is less effective, so that's a whole, we could have gotten more soul there, so you need to make sure if you're getting hit, you're only getting hit for 1 mask of damage. Then, like I said, in phase 3, the fight slows down a bit because there's a lot more safe opportunities. And then in phase 4, like I said, the Knight is basically dead at that point, you just are putting the poor thing out of its misery. At the time of editing this, I uploaded the proof video as like a sneak peek of me beating the Hollow Knight with only Crystal Dash, and the video is like 15 minutes long, and that was like 8 hours ago when I uploaded the video, and it already has 500 views, so thank you for that, I guess. But and I see all these people talking about, it's like, wow, this is really, I don't know if I'm more impressed by you or more sad for the Hollow Knight, because this is kind of embarrassing for its sake. And so I feel bad for the Hollow Knight, but I feel like it's kind of just gets bullied around in a lot of these challenges, because I'm basically just, at least with the Radiance, it's just like, haha, I'm beating you up with a stupid strategy, and at least we all hate the Radiance, but the Hollow Knight, we all just kind of feel bad for it. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Thankfully, Crystal Dash can actually kill the Hollow Knight, because some ways you can damage it will leave it at like a 0 HP state where you actually have to strike it with the nail for the fight to end. But thankfully, the Crystal Dash does knock it over, so you can absorb the infection. And with that, I have proven that yes, you can indeed beat Hollow Knight with only Crystal Heart damage, if you start with it. and cast an evil spell on the Elder Baldur's bloodline so it isn't blocking your way to Green Path. But other than that, it's completely possible. Anyways, like I said, the challenge is over, and I've proven it possible with my amazing gaming skills yet again. But more importantly than the singular video, I would like to point out that this video is being made on the 14th of December and will probably be uploaded at some time during this day. And this channel was made on December 1st of last year. So, it's been a little over a year since I've started uploading videos on this channel. And it's been only like 7-8 months since I got monetized. So I'm very thankful for that, and I'm very thankful for all the support you all have shown me over this first year. And I hope there's more years that will get even better and even bigger or something. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if this is all sappy or whatever, but it's the holidays. It's time for that or something. And before starting my usual outro spiel, I'd like to thank my YouTube members and Patreon supporters that pay me and stuff because I want them to know that I appreciate their financial support. For Patreon, we have Sven Biscuit and Iconic Cat, and then for YouTube memberships, we have Wally69420, and I asked the person this is their username. I don't know how to pronounce it in the native language, but apparently when you translate it to English, it's Sweaty Onion, so thank you. I will try to figure out how to say it correctly for the next video. Sorry, I should probably be more professional about this, but then again, this is a YouTube channel. If you wanted something professional, you'd probably go somewhere else, so I don't know. Anyways, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you all for watching. Thank you for your time today. I hope, or I guess since it's December, if you celebrate anything during these holidays, or if you're just getting together with family, I hope whatever plans you have go well, and I wish you a good, happy holiday. If you enjoyed this video, please consider commenting, and subscribing. If not, I will, I'll tell Santa you've been very naughty or something, I don't know. I'm trying to be festive and it's not working. See, this is what happens when I go off script. I'm just rambling. Anyways, again, thank you for watching. Please do all the YouTube stuff, comment, subscribe, hype the video or whatever. I should probably shut up before I look like even more of a fool.